Welcome everyone to our next weekly Stockwaves webinar. We thought that we would revisit semiconductors to start off this week, which have shown some strength over the past few days in the market, and update some of those charts. So starting off with SMH, the semiconductor ETF, we right now are approaching the 618 retrace in this bounce up from the May low, which we identified as a possible 5 waves down. And the subwave structure to this bounce so far does look like a nice clean 3 waves, an ABC structure with relatively equal proportion for the size of wave C in comparison to the size of wave A. A little bit shy of that measured move target, that's at 113.45, so may end up reaching just slightly above the 618 to tag that measured move before we put in the next top, but looking kind of between that 111.30 and 113.45 level as the ideal spot for wave C of B to complete and turn back down in the wave C of A. Even possible that the A wave turns out to be an impulse, and this is a one to start to that impulse for the A wave. But as long as we're kind of holding below that resistance, probabilities still remain in favor of this bounce being corrective and turning back down to head to a new swing low once we complete it. So let's take a look at Intel next, which was one of the first semiconductors to put in its top and make that turn back down. If you guys remember, going into the end of last year, this was one of the charts that we were looking to actually see higher high this year and fill out that 5th wave, because we only had 3 waves up within that C wave off of the 2015 low here. So it did end up getting a marginally higher high to satisfy that ABC structure to the upside for wave 5 of C to complete the primary third. And then we saw that sharp drop on earnings, which took price all the way back down close to that prior October low before it recently found support and has started to bounce. So it continues to basically cooperate with expectations overall. We were looking for an A wave down to complete and price to set up a corrective bounce to B wave, which is what we're viewing this bounce off of the May low as. So far, price has reached a 382 retrace. That's typically the minimum expectation for a corrective bounce, whether it be a B wave or a wave 2 in a downtrend. That was at 48.61, so again, minimum expectations for this bounce have been met. And it is possible that price is ready to once again turn back down and fill out wave C of A, which should target at least around the 37.40 region, if not all the way down to a measured move at 34.85.
The only thing on this one, Garrett, is based on the microstructure. I'm giving it into the 44 to 43 region to hold as a B wave in a wider flat or a higher B wave retrace to get back up towards the 50 to 52.50 region.
Right, I was about to mention that. So although we have hit the minimum 382 retrace, it is very possible, as Zach was just describing, that this may be only an A wave of a larger flat to the upside. So if we get just a corrective looking pullback from here that holds retrace support in the 44.90 region would be the 618 retrace of that initial rise up off of the May low. So a clear 3-wave structure into that support that then starts to turn back up could take price in this red C wave up to that 50% to 618 retrace between 50.54 and 52.54 for a larger B wave without jeopardizing the expectation for overall further downside in the rest of the primary 4th wave. So a lot depends on the nature of the drop that we get off this next high, whether it looks like a clear 5 waves down or a corrective 3 waves, and whether or not price can crack that 44.91 support as the 618 retrace of this bounce up off of the May low. So let's take a look at some of those other semiconductors that we looked at last time. The next one I wanted to look at is TSM, which has also gotten a really nice turn down and drop off of the high that we saw in April, and what is setting up so far is a pretty clearly corrective looking bounce. The initial subwaves of this move up into the June 10th high look like a clear 3 waves. Then this can be a larger ABC flat. So very possible, and it looks like about a 382 retrace, that this is all that was needed for a bounce here. And I'm actually going to do an ending diagonal for this one. And a 1-2 start to this ending diagonal C wave is in place. It may be a standard impulse, but based on the proportions, I'm going to lean towards an ending diagonal to begin with until we see more of the price structure fill out. So again, right now we've already touched a 382 retrace, almost even a 50%. So again, more than enough to consider this bounce complete. However, if it does push to one more local high, 41.19, 42.20 would be the next resistance levels to watch above from here. And what are some of the other names that you wanted to look at, Zach?
I think AVGO and NVIDIA are definitely two of the ones that we should peek in on.
AVGO, we also got that initial turn down into the May low as well, then have seen a bounce back to the 618 retrace. It does look like at this point we initially gapped lower, and that certainly had opened the door to the start to this wave 3. But with a rebound, it does look like it's also attempting to fill out a wider flat here. So maybe has a little bit further upside in the C wave, could even stretch up to that 786 retrace at 306 before completing. But kind of between 293 and 306 is where we expect this wave C of 2 to complete and turn back down to fill out this wave 3 of C. Moving on to the NVIDIA chart, we were looking for a bounce as a wave 2. Price has certainly satisfied that expectation, and so far has slightly exceeded a 50% retrace. Next resistance approaching is the 618 at 167.50. So it does have room for a little bit more near-term upside, but ideally that is where price will find resistance for this bounce. And you actually have a measured move kind of right in between where price is at right now. 164 would be equal proportions for the size of wave C in comparison to the size of that A wave. So what we're looking for on this chart to indicate a top is a break back below 150.74. And that should put odds in favor of the 1-2 in place, and price attempting to start the third wave of this C back down toward a new swing low.
You want to look at AMD also?
AMD a little bit different as far as the strength that we did see, continued strength in comparison to other names, into the basically a retest of the prior 2018 high, at the high that we saw earlier this month. Price has since turned back down from there and even can be a micro 5 waves down from that high. Small 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But overall, we need to see lower highs, lower lows being made to start more confidently indicating a trend change. So a break below 26, the prior fourth wave low there, would go a long way towards signaling that top in place and start to wave C to the downside. But I do want to go back and take a look at the prior B wave of the fourth in this ABC structure. We've discussed this before, how that B wave came all the way back to the prior high as well. And there were quite a few people at the time who were basically dismissing the B wave and suggesting that we were about to break out again. So once again, it looks like we've seen a high B wave to retrace the entire A wave to the downside, but still, based on the price pattern, technicals continually argues in favor of that B wave and setting up the C wave back down.
I think microchip MCHP is another really good example of that 1-2 start to the C wave.
Right.
Similar to NVIDIA.
So we got that nice impulsive drop off of the high here in April, and a clear three-wave bounce so far. At a 50% retrace in the bounce right now. So this may also have a little bit more upside, hit that 618 91.55 before turning back down, but also argues very well for the 1-2 setup to the downside here. Impulsive looking drop, corrective looking bounce, coming into standard target resistance for wave 2. Basically, any turn back below the 83.88 low would put those probabilities in favor of top in place, and then confirmation below the 80.18 low. And even the subwave structure here, I mean, this is a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 waves for that C wave. It may not even need to stretch up to that 618. It may turn sooner.
And I think ADI is a little bit different because it did push to new highs into April, but it does have a decent move down and a corrective bounce off of that. That could be the very first AB, or it does allow for one more push up towards maybe the 125 to 130 region.
It did
maybe
come
Intel's going to get
slightly shy of that 1382 fib, so here I could maybe see a spike in reversal, yeah, to a higher high, and then head down in this fourth. But any break back below 103 on this chart, and that puts probabilities in favor of that top already in place.
Very
Anything
good.
else, or should we jump into the requests?
Yeah, I think let's go into the requests.
All right.